But I want to talk about your Ravens because the Ravens for a while, and
Mhm.
I've been noted on this show. I've stated I think Lamar Jackson is the I think he's the best player in football. And I'm not just playing with you when I say that. I'm not just trying to appease you. I'm not just trying to say
Yeah.
it because you're on the show. He is one of the only players in football
Mhm.
that essentially, with the amount of uh, disaster that the Ravens have gone through this season, when everything looked like the team was folding in on itself, all you have to do is game plan for Lamar. And up until really the last 2, 3 weeks, nobody could do it. Nobody could do it.
Yeah.
Now we fast forward to those past 3 weeks and we look at the Miami game and we say, well, what is that? And now we go to this Cleveland game, and that's where I'm going to bring you into the conversation. What is that? Like what happened against Cleveland?
I
Like
don't
I've never seen a more disastrous minute and a half before a halftime.
Clowney and Garrett were getting frustrated. You saw that. Like they were
Yeah,
getting legitimately frustrated, and you put Clowney on skates. And Garrett at one point after he threw the touchdown to Andrews Lamar, he was just like, "You're a bad man." Like he gave him credit. Like they were frustrated the
yeah.
entire night. Clowney had a rough in the passer call because he shoved Lamar. I think that's probably part of frustration too. I, it's just crazy what he does with the ball, and even with this whole team period, because I think I've been on the show before talking about the injuries, but we'll say it again. J.K. Dobbins, leading rusher, projected out. Gus Edwards, the next week out. Justice Hill, their third running back, out. Marcus Peters, ACL, out, which, by the way, that shows clearly that they're missing him because they only have like 3 or 4 interceptions this whole year.
Yeah.
And Peters is a ball hawk, so they clearly miss him there. Ronnie Stanley, your top tackle that you paid, out again. All these guys have been out and injured, and even like some like the reserve guys on the defense that like play some parts here and there, special teamers or in some packages, like LJ Ford, for example,
Yeah.
torn ACL, he's out. So a lot of these guys have been out, and Derek Wolf, another defensive end, they have out also. So
Yeah.
the fact that they've been able to do this, it goes right back to the coaching staff and getting the next man up mentality. They brought in Le'Veon Bell. I know he had a good run a little, but he's gone now. But Latavius Murray and Devontae Freeman, two guys who we thought were kind of done with their careers, brought them in and have been very good weapons to help out Lamar. Marquise Brown has stepped up big time. And I said this last year. I'm like, this is a make or break year for Brown. He needs to make it to the next step to be worth that first round pick. Mark Andrews struggled last year. We thought it was a 1-year wonder, has come back, has looked really, really sharp. Alejandro Villanueva, we gave him crap the first couple of weeks, has done really well on the left side too. So it's all these things, all these guys we had questions about, they just have the next man up, keep going, keep going, keep going, ignore everything that's going on. Lamar had this bad game, and it was a bad game, but at the end of the day, they still won.
Yeah.
So with the magic he's able to do with the ball, the extra time he has in the pocket. So I don't know what the hell that game was. That for any other team that throws 4 picks, they're losing by a lot.
Yeah.
And I
That's
know it's the Browns, but the Browns are a very good team too right now, which is weird to say now.
Are they?
I mean, compared to what they were 2 years ago,
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
when they
anything
had
is
1 win in
improvement
2
upon
years. Yeah,
0 and 16. I mean,
yeah,
anything's improvement of that.
1 win in 2 seasons. I think they're a pretty good team now compared to whatever. But they may also be in the what if category or the what category.
Yeah.
But any other team, but no matter who you play, if they throw 4 picks, you're going to lose that game. There was
Yeah.
a stat. There was literally a stat. I think it was like before that game. I forgot since what year. 0-52 when a quarterback throws 4+ picks. Now it's 1-52 because Lamar did it. So that's just what I got. It's just next man up mentality and just the coach staff of helping out Lamar. This has been a very good season so far. Now I'm worried about the getting into the playoffs. I hope this momentum still goes up in the right direction, but we'll see. They got a big game against the Steelers coming up.
They do have a big game and another injury that kind of went under the radar because, again, you never had him, so there was nothing to necessarily essentially miss. But your first round pick in Rashad Bateman just started playing like
That's
4 or
right.
5 weeks ago.
But he's been doing really well.
Yeah, he's great. I was going to say, I think that essentially, and again, I could be completely wrong. I think he is the on the right path to essentially become that number one. I think he has.
I've said it since like the season ended. We need to get Rashad Bateman or somebody, and I
Yeah,
think he's been. I think he's gonna do. Yeah, that's another guy too. Got hurt. beginning of the season, but he's doing very, very well for us now. So hopefully the momentum can keep going. He can actually go up the ranks of the best receivers in that class, maybe behind Waddle and Chase.
Gonna go to the comment section right here. Got a few comments.
Hey,
Brian,
Brian.
Fonz and Kyle. I love
Oh,
that
bro.
comment. That is
Uh,
funny.
oh,
That's
Brian.
great.
Good to hear from you, Brian.
It's a special show tonight, Brian. It is a special show tonight, and we're having a good time right now. We are having a good time.
Mhm.
Brian, again, I want those Ravens to show up when they play the Packers. That'll be a fun game.
Oh boy. Oh man, I hope so. Because I know the Packers defense, they'll take full advantage of that too, you know?
I will say this, and that's why I like to credit Lamar. He's obviously had some uh, playoff mishaps, but when it comes to regular season, big time, big moment games, he does show up for the most part.
They could have only won 3 games this year, if you
Yeah.
really think about it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Mhm. Colts
Back.
game would look right away, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Back to another comment. Nick Newton, Sam Cardona. Maybe I don't know. I want to say yes about the Philadelphia
Yeah.
Eagles being a legit team.
Yeah.
Uh,
And they just
do
and he's talking about the Ravens Steelers, which I'm looking at the schedule. 1 point win against the Chiefs, 2 points against the Lions with that kick. The Colts in overtime, Minnesota in overtime, Chicago by 3, and then there's Cleveland. They could have only really won 2-3 games because they
yeah,
blew out the Chargers and blew out the Broncos.
yeah.
Like
And
that's scary to think. Like it's literally one play away from all that too, which is why my thing of football is just crazy. So
another thing, real quick about the Ravens before we transition into the other AFC team that is seeming to lead the race in terms of where we think the final standings are going to be, the New England Patriots. Marquise Brown as well was questionable up until what, like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on Sunday
yeah,
for this game. So that's another thing. They managed to win. They managed to get the job done. It may not be pretty, but they managed to win the
Brown
football
has been
game and
doing
move
very
forward.
well. And I say it again, Brown's been doing very well. So I mean, he's been doing very well. I think he already matched his career high in yards. I think he's well going to be over 1,000 yards this year.
Absolutely. And now the New England Patriots. I want to get into them because,
Oh,
and I, it's so it's so crazy to even be talking about them because we knew in April, or we at least we knew in March, right? Once free agency just kind of, the storm had calmed. New England had won free agency, right? They had won.
we
Oh,
thought maybe a little bit too much overpaying on some players and whatever.
yeah, I thought maybe more so on the offensive weapons that they paid, like maybe a Kendrick Bourne or a Nelson Aguilar. But in terms of the additions they made to the defense, what we assumed they were going to get out of guys like John Smith, who hasn't been a factor, but Hunter Henry has been tremendous for
Yeah,
them. I think that a lot of people assumed that I assumed that they had won free agency, and I think so far they have. But now the draft, and you go back to April, and New England Patriots take with the 15th overall selection, Mac Jones.
oh god.
And I said it when it happened. He was going to win because he was being put in the best system.
Yeah,
It is an unfortunate thing across all sports where you have your best players, the best talents coming from college, and they have to go to the worst teams.
yeah.
And that's why, for the most part, they either get slow starts to the career or they suck or their careers are even ruined.
Trevor Lawrence example because we
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen in Jacksonville.
Yeah, we don't. But with the New England Patriots, Mac Jones has been put in a system where it's not even just the team, because we saw throughout the first couple weeks, he wasn't playing great. But the last 5, 6, 7 weeks, the defense has been huge. Their run game has been huge, but he's been a huge contributor as well to why they are winning football games. And they have won, I believe, 6 straight games in a row, and maybe even more than that. Is it 6 or 7
Ridiculous.
straight games?
Ridiculous. Wow.
They have won 6 straight games in a row, and they've beaten some of the best talent in football, and not just beaten, but have beaten the brakes off of teams in the
Yeah,
process.
it's not like one score games. It's like if I mean I'll look at through. I mean, what is it right here? I'm looking right now. I mean, Jets 25-6. Yeah, Houston by 3. But then you go Cleveland 45-7, Atlanta 25-0, Tennessee 36-13, Carolina 24-6.
And don't forget
54
the
to 50
54-13.
versus
That's a big,
the Jet. But I'm saying like they're like
yeah,
not just winning barely, that they're destroying teams
yeah,
too.
yeah. They're making teams look silly. They're making teams look silly to easily say it. And I think that when I assess their schedule and what they've done so far, right? They do have losses to some of the better teams in football, right? They lost to New Orleans earlier in the season when I think they had a more established team. James Winston was the quarterback. Everybody doubted him, but he looked pretty solid in the games in which he did play. They had a healthy Alvin Kamara. You lose to Tom Brady, in which was a highly anticipated, really, really hyped game. I think the weather that night kind of ruined the game.
Yeah.
Gronk didn't play. Tom Brady didn't look great, but Tampa winds up managing to win. They lose to Dallas as well at home. Their best win probably of the season is probably to the Chargers, I would say. I don't want to say Tennessee because they were really a running back by committee type of team. And what has been shown since Derrick Henry has been out has been that Ryan Tannehill, as good as
Yeah.
he can't play
You
without
say
Derrick
that.
Henry.
So you say what game did you say that was the most
The
impressive?
the Chargers was probably the most impressive for me going into SoFi and beating the
Oh yeah,
Chargers.
it was that so far. I was like Cleveland, but they were home to Cleveland, and Baker was up and down too. I was gonna
And
say
they
that.
were well. The other thing about that game as well, why I didn't say against Cleveland, was because they were without.
Oh, it was yeah, it
They
was
were without Nick Chubb. They didn't have Kareem Hunt.
yeah. They had literally nobody there. Okay, yeah,
That was the week that they just traded Odell. As much as they didn't use him, they were without their number one essentially.
yeah. No,
But
I'd probably say that one.
they are beating the brakes off of teams. They're making teams look silly. The combination of J.C. Jackson and their other cornerback is like one of the most lethal and filthiest secondaries that I think I've seen in a long time. And their line is even more crazier. I watched a clip on Instagram before we hopped on the show. It was a highlight of Christian Barmore, who I love the pick when they made it, defensive
He's so
tackle.
good. Yeah.
Tennessee had 4 offensive
Oh, yeah.
linemen on him.
How
Had
did he?
4 offensive linemen on him. He's
I
a
don't think
rookie.
I don't think you understand how the hell this is possible. The Patriots still doing this. And I think was the other corner, by the way. We were talking about a Jalen or Jonathan Jones or Jalen Mills, one of those two. It might have been Jalen Mills, probably too. Another free agent signing.
Jalen Mills. I know Adrian Phillips is a huge key. I
Another
remember
signing, another one too. Matthew Judon that let the Ravens let go.
that was huge. I wanted him. I love Judon.
And I knew we weren't going to sign him because the Ravens have a history of not keeping linebackers after their rookie deal. I said it with Darius Smith. I'm like, I knew he's going to go off wherever he goes. I know he has potential, and he did. And I'm like, Judon is gonna. I know he's going to go off somewhere because he's really good. And now he has a career year in sacks, and he's been like because they have him lining up with his hand in the dirt. With the Ravens, he did some coverage stuff, and he's more of a pass rusher than really a coverage guy. And again, I don't know how that. I hate how they do it every year. Every year.
And it's so many players too, right? It's go to a guy, Nick Folk, right? A guy who essentially one of the oldest kickers in football, one of the oldest players in football,
Yeah.
was out of the league. He's 37 years old and is probably the best kicker in football right now. He already has 31 field goals made. We still have 6, 7 games left in the season.
Yeah.
The guy could go off for 50 field goals the way the New England Patriots score points. Godchuk has been a phenomenal addition. The reacquisition of guys like Kyle Van Noy, the reacquisition of Trent Brown, and this guy especially, because this guy, everybody, and I mean everybody, when he came out of college, he was a second-round pick by
I know
Bill Belichick.
exactly. I know exactly.
Kyle Duggar.
Yeah, I don't know where.
Like what? Like he's one of the most underrated defensive players in football and one of the best.
When I saw that pick, I'm like Pro Bowler because it's the Belichick way. It's a no-name school. I just know I'm like he's a Pro Bowler. I already know it's gonna happen. I knew it. And then you look at the offense too, because the running backs every week it's somebody new, from Damian Harris to Ramondre Stevenson, who we thought he wasn't gonna even make the roster because they had so many other running backs. And I like this guy a lot, Kendrick Bourne. The guy on the Niners who was like a backup receiver who was pretty good for them, signs a big deal with the Patriots. They're like, oh, they overpaid for a guy who didn't have even close to 700 yards receiving, was more of a backup guy.
Yep.
He's leading their team in receiving yards now. It was 623, actually, excuse me. He fits well in that system. I don't know how they, and then Brian says it here. I want to pull up Brian's comment every time. Literally, they struck back. I hate it. The empire literally is back. Listen, enjoy your 12 months, Bills fans, because the Patriots are now back. They made the right call with Cam Newton, letting Cam Newton go.
They did.
Mac Jones. They were now looking at it. I'm like, yeah, they made the right call, and I hate that I just said that too.
They did. And one last thing to wrap up this Patriots discussion as well. I think what's going to be a true testament to how good they actually are. They play Buffalo on Monday Night Football. I think that has one of the biggest chances to be probably one of the best games of the year. They're at Buffalo that game. Then they go to Indianapolis after the bye week and then play Buffalo again the day after Christmas. So that's going to be the testament in their schedule to see how legit they are. Because I think every AFC team has had questions, but the Patriots, as long as the last month, really, have been probably the most guaranteed surefire in terms of wins and dominance. But to end off this AFC discussion, and I know this is tough for you,
It does.
but between the Ravens
I'm not doing
and
this.
between the Ravens and the Pats,
Oh, man.
who do you believe is in a I don't want to say a better situation, but poised for a because they're both going to make the playoffs,
Oh,
but
yeah, for
poised
sure.
for a better playoff run, I would say.
Oof. You know, I
You got to remember, like I just said, that Pat schedule the next 3 weeks, that's tough.
yeah, but
That
then
is
they got
tough.
Jacksonville and Miami to end the year, and Miami could be fighting for a playoff spot, but if they win those 3 games, the Patriots could be playing their second stringers at that point too.
Yeah,
I gotta double check the rate because I mean, listen, for me, I want to say the Ravens because I'm a Raven, but I'm gonna take off my fandom cap. It's just these Patriots now they're striking back. I'm so worried about it because I just feel like they're gonna do it again. They're gonna do it again, make a deep playoff run. I think the Ravens schedule, it's who's it left on here? If
you
I'm not
got Pittsburgh twice. You
Pittsburgh.
got
Oh,
Cleveland, Cincinnati, Green Bay, and the Rams. But those aren't bad games, though, right?
Pittsburgh. I don't know what you're gonna get out of Pittsburgh. Cleveland, you kind of saw it's going to be a tough game. The Bengals, it's also a tough one. And the Packers are a tough team. And then the Rams, too, even because I don't know what's going to happen with the Rams, but they're still like, they have
Yeah,
a lot of
by
players.
January, I would think they would figure this stuff out a little bit better than they
Yeah.
are right now.
And don't the Patriots have a bye week, too, or they already passed their bye week?
They have a bye week. They have a bye week after they play Buffalo Monday night.
I think I'm taking off the
And
Ravens. I'm sorry,
that is
Ravens
such a
fans.
good time to have a bye week too, coming off seven
I'm
straight
sorry,
victories.
Ravens fans. You're going to hate me. I think the Patriots are in a better spot right now because I know their schedule's tough, but that bye week's going to help them a lot. And they're just clicking at the right spot. And the Jacksonville, Miami to end the season is way better for me than ending off with the Rams and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And
Yeah.
the Pittsburgh Steelers are bad, but they always play well against the Ravens. They always have good games against each other. You know what I mean? Look at those last 2 games. Miami and Jacksonville versus Pittsburgh and the Rams. That's where for me it's going to be a little bit tough. So, plus it's Belichick. You never know. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong though. They're both gonna do fine in the playoffs, but we'll just see what happens this time in January.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I mean, I remember I think it was a week or two ago, and I put it in our review and preview chat. I said, "Can you imagine a Tampa versus Patriots Super Bowl?" And I get it. We're only in week 12 now, but is it so far fetched to talk about the Patriots in that light? Everybody goes straight to Mac Jones and says, "Oh, he's a rookie quarterback." But is it really that far fetched? I mean, this system is
Could
flawless.
happen. It could happen. It could
It,
happen
it's
right now.
flawless. Their defense is like suffocating.
And I would ask you this: say if that did happen, and they
Yeah,
only offered it on pay-per-view, like with the wrestling pay-per-view or like whatever, a boxing pay-per-view, how would you pay to watch a Brady versus Belichick Super Bowl if it was only on?
100%,
You could only do
100%,
pay-per-view. Like
100%.
how much was the cat? If it's say $100, would you pay to watch it?
I pay $300. I would
300 your max, you'd go. I do
that
500 to be
no, I
honest.
do I did more. I was just putting I was just putting a number out there, but that for me
Yeah, no, that would be.
has
Come on.
that has what the Chiefs and Tampa last year was supposed to be for this year. That's what this
Yeah,
has for me. That would be one of the greatest games ever, and it would be the only way to settle the debate of Brady versus Belichick.
yeah.
Can Tom Brady beat his old coach? And can his old coach game plan against the greatest quarterback of all time? That'd be the only way. Be the only way.
That's still so crazy to me.